Y'all, welcome back to Kentucky Fried Wargaming, where two guys who aren't qualified to talk about anything decide to talk about a game with hard math and chance. I'm Joe.
And I'm John.
And, good lord, on this episode, we have a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
As most people probably know, recently Warhammer Fest just happened, and I feel like that's normally a fairly big event in the hobby. Obviously, Games Workshop is the biggest company in sort of the hobby sphere. So when they do most anything, it kind of gets around a little. But boy, howdy, this one really got around. John and I were actually in person with each other to watch this one.
Yeah.
Which is
not
normally
for
not the case.
The fest, but we just happened to be able to do both. Like, we were running our, was it Pathfinder game, our monthly Pathfinder game?
Yes. So we were down there, and funnily enough, like, for our time, Warhammer Fest happened at like 4 a.m. That's when the reveals went up. So we were not going to stay up till 4 a.m. because we are not those people anymore. But we sort of made an agreement the night before, like, all right, in the morning, like, don't look at your phone. Like, you don't want any spoilers. Just like, let's not spoil it for ourselves. We'll go get coffee. We'll come back. We'll watch all the reveals together. Ain't that going to be fun? Except we didn't realize just how many places our phones are riddled with news.
Yeah.
About this damn hobby.
Yeah. It's almost like the algorithm listens to us and feeds us exactly what it thinks we want.
Huh. John, I think there might be problems with social media. Yeah, like I woke up, I'm like, all right, I'll just check can't click that app. Oh, well, I'll check Discord. Oh, shit, can't check that app. Maybe I'll look at Instagram. Oh, well, can't do that either.
It doesn't help that our own friends are just like, yes, at like 6 a.m. Like, and we're like, oh, we're trying to like get a pleasant Saturday morning coffee like two old men. Like,
our buddy Lucas never fails. Without fail, like clockwork. Reveals will go up, and Lucas will post in the Discord. No text, no context.
All
just
screenshots.
Every picture that was revealed for every reveal. It's delightful. But it meant that everything we touched was a minefield. Eventually, though, we did get our coffee and get to watch the reveals. And there was a lot of really cool stuff in there. And I feel like a lot of the time we were going, yeah, that's cool. And then it hit us both at the same time. Oh, shit. We're going to have to make this into like a 40-minute video. Oh, God. There were, 4 to 6 hours of live streams?
Yeah, over the course of like 3 days. Like, there was a lot. There was a ton.
What I say all this to say, it is a shit show of a task we were handed, and we're going to do our best to make this sensible. But if it's not, our bad.
Yeah, it's bad.
We tried.
We kind of assume you come to this show for like a mild amount of mediocrity, so we're going to live up to those expectations today.
Hell yeah, that's how I got my college degrees. Speaking of mediocre output, hobby time and games played. All right, John, what you been up to?
Quite a bit, actually. I have painted this week 5 intercessors, 3 outriders in the Ravenwing scheme. I am about halfway through 6 Black Knights. I bought and built Azrael because I love the new sculpt. It's amazing. Yeah. Huge fan.
The Primaris scaling was kind to him.
Yes. Also, his pose is great. He's got a little guy. He's got his little watcher on his base. He's got his little friend.
Someone to bring him little white Monster energy drinks.
Yes, it's my favorite. There's a meme that's been going around the internet that is just, "Hello, Lionel Johnson, sir, your energy drink." And it's got like a watcher holding a white Monster can. For those of you who don't know, I have a problem with energy drinks. I think at the first Warhammer Fest, every game was a different flavor.
It was.
It was a
It was
problem.
effective, but it was a problem.
Oh,
Could you imagine how bad it would be if you had like a little vaguely religious Jawa just running around behind you going, "Me lord," and handing you ones all day?
that's not a problem. That's a solution. I want a little religious Jawa following me around, just going, "My lord, give me a thing." But the big thing I was able to do is I fixed my second printer, so now I have both of my printers running.
Jeez.
Boy, that was a pain in the ass. Cause like,
What was it? Like in the end, what was the final problem?
It's the stupidest thing. So when I moved rooms where I'd put the printer in, because now it's in this room.
Mm-hmm.
I re-leveled both, and after re-leveling, one of them stopped working. And for a long time, I was just like, ugh, I don't need two printers. But now I'm printing Tyranids for the new edition, not for me, but for my roommate Seth. And so, like, we want to be ready for the launch party for Tyranids. So I'm gonna need to be able to print a ton of Termagants, because I can only print Termagants at 5 per plate. So I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go fix this thing. I thought it was maybe the FEP. Not the case. Tension's great. FEP looks great. Perfectly fine.
Mm-hmm.
Thought it was maybe the stem. Not the stem. Re-leveled it. Re-leveled it a third time. Re-leveled it a fourth time. I completely cleaned the screen. I made sure that the exposure was great. Whole 9 yards. Bunch of stuff. Okay, so what is the problem here? What is going on?
Yeah, obviously something small is causing catastrophic failures.
Yes. And honestly, I think it's because, and I'm not even sure that this was the problem. I just disassembled the entirety of the plate frame.
Mm-hmm.
So I took all the bolts off, cleaned all the bolts, put the bolts back in, and then re-leveled it and did the tightening process completely from bolts barely threaded in.
Mm-hmm.
Got the whole thing fixed. Now it works like a charm. Don't know what the problem was. The only issue...
maybe it was one of your little frame bolts in there?
That's what I'm guessing.
That just... Your level was not holding. So it would be level and then get slightly skewed, and now your shit is absolutely wrecked.
Yeah.
Every time.
That's what I'm guessing it was. But now I have a new issue that I'm going to have to figure out.
Oh God, no.
This printer has printed, this one is the one that has seen more use. So this one has printed, I think, 15 bottles of resin.
That's substantial.
Yeah. And a lot of that was on when I was not knowing what I was doing, and I fucked up quite a bit. This is also the printer that I accidentally had a open on the bottom of an FEP sheet and got resin all over the fucking place.
Doopy.
So now sometimes when I put the lid on, it doesn't register that the lid is fully closed, and it will pause the print. So I have to figure out how I'm going to fix that. But at least that is a reasonable thing to try to fix, not a maddening tiny little bolt like a Nissan Altima or something.
Maybe, there's some little sensor in there that detects the contact with whatever the top brings down. Maybe see if that's obscured in some way.
Yeah, I think it has to do with the lid, because if I have the lid on in a certain angle, perfectly fine. If I don't have it on that angle, it doesn't work. So I have to figure out a way to cheat it.
Mm-hmm.
How
fun.
I might just put a piece of cardboard around the sensor. Slightly unsafe, but whatever.
What are you gonna do? Redneck rigging's part of the ethos of this channel.
Yes, 100%. If I'm not out here stealing catalytic converters and trying to mod a Honda Civic, am I really in Kentucky?
You could also be in Florida by that description.
Hey, right, born and raised. What up, dirty, dirty Sal?
Lord, no.
Anyways, did all that. Got the Slaves of Darkness Endless Spells, which I think I'm going to bring in the next pump up instead of dudes. I'm torn because I want Corvus Cabal, because it'd be cool.
Mm-hmm.
I might just do Corvus Cabal and some Endless Spells.
Why not both? They're
Yeah.
not very expensive, I'd imagine.
Corvus Squall are about 80 points, and then, like the Endless Spells I think are like 30 to 40 points each. I might be able to bring two. That'd be cool.
You can bring a couple.
And then instead of bringing, because I was bringing Scions of the Flame, but I can't find the Warcry models anymore, anywhere. So
That's the problem with Warcry warbands, is like they're really cool sculpts, but they just disappear so quickly.
I mean, I'll be honest, that's kind of my problem with a whole lot of GW stuff right now. Is there's a ton of stuff I'd love to get, I'd love to just buy in plastic, but I can't.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't. It's not there. It's not available. Or when I order it, it's like 4, 5, 6 weeks out. Like,
God, that's rough.
what? Like, yeah. It's a whole nother topic for an episode, but it has made playing the game, air quotes, legitimately difficult.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm gonna get the Corvus Squall from you, Endless Spells, and then Slaves of Darkness are on their way to getting more closer to 2,000 points. I have all the models. I just have to,
Hobby them up.
hobby them up and get to that point in our little escalation before 10th edition. But what about you?
I've been doing hobby. Not a lot on Warhammer stuff, though, oddly enough. So I've been doing some 3D printing. I set up a new UV curing station because mine went bad. And working through that Tau stuff. But I've been hobbying on Star Wars Legion stuff. Sort of got a bee in my bonnet to play around with lightsabers and fun little Star Wars flavor. So I got a third box of first generation clone troopers and painted them entirely up over the past couple weeks. And I mean, it didn't take me that long. They were fast. But also, I decided to throw Yoda down on the table and paint up his two models, which is sick.
He probably doesn't take all that long. He's real small. He's a small guy. He's a little guy.
He is an itty bitty mini. He's part of the itty bitty mini committee, but I'm taking a lot of time on him to do a ton of detail work.
Is he going to be your tiny little Jawa that is religious and follows you around giving you Monster Energy drinks?
That would be cool. I'm here for it. But I want later Yoda rather than like early Yoda.
Yeah, like, okay. We are friends, right? It makes sense that you like Dagobah Yoda, who is like a tiny little gremlin creature in a swamp. He demands to be carried like a child.
I also really, really like episode 8 Yoda. Like the sacred text, like burning the sacred text. That's Yoda for me.
You mean... you mean anarcho-socialist?
Yoda? Yeah. Huge fan of Yoda's turn later on in life.
Yoda's but the prequel Yoda is just neoliberal shithead. But like...
He really goes through it though when the Empire ascends to power.
He just goes
does a lot of introspection, dies, and then burns the ancient religious text. It's a hell of a tale.
Maybe vote for Bernie Sanders. We're not a political show. We're just making funny jokes about Yoda. Just.
I did spend a lot of time on Yoda. He's not done. But it might be the best model I have painted, in my opinion, so far. I mean, I did a 3 or 4 color workup with tiny little sable brushes on his skin with like textured highlights. And wow, it looks good. And I got base coats done on his 2 different robes, but now I have to go in and start doing those color workups on all the robes. So Yoda is on the way to done. But sadly, I haven't got to play any games. For the league last month, I don't think I played... Yeah, I played no games for the 1,000 point level, which is sad, but schedule was rough.
Yeah.
Real rough. It was hard to try to fit in a time. Which now, though, I need to hop up another 250 points, and I'm not sure what to jump up. So I'm going to have to do some noodling on it, but there will be more goats in my imminent future.
Yeah, I think more baseline goats, like maybe not Ungors, but Gores.
Mhm.
be good for you. And then maybe a second cockatrice.
Possibly. Honestly, though, I think a second hero might be better. To do a second dark ritual per turn.
That'd be good. A second shaman, or would you go with like a Doom Bull?
Maybe shaman?
Maybe more
Maybe.
Bulgor, too.
Could. But yeah, I just 250 points gets eaten up quickly.
Absolutely.
So like it'll probably be like shaman because he's 80 points, and then one other thing, and then I'm out of points.
Yeah.
I
I feel
in
that
with
was
an endless spell if I can.
Yeah, I feel that with Slaves of Darkness. I think when our points go up from 1,500 to 2,000 will be where it feels like really big.
Yeah.
I actually think maybe we can talk about this later, maybe off the show, but next time we do an escalation thing like this, we might be more beneficial just going straight up 500 points each time, because this 250 step has been a little weird.
The only problem I have with that is that it's hard to hobby, but that depends on your army.
Yeah.
For example, trying to paint 500 points of orcs in a short amount of time is different than painting 500 points of custodes or space marines.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
or guard, because
Yeah.
where I could fit in Warhammer Fest, but unfortunately, I have all these Dark Angels almost ready, getting through all this stuff. Monday's the guard thing. Seth starts Tyranids, and a little fucking brain inside me goes, "You want to play Imperial Guard?"
You want to play Starship Troopers.
Yes, I bought the Cadian upgrade kit, so I really
You
like.
would like
bits
to
of-
know more.
Yes, 100%. Imperial Guard is the first faction I actually played in 40k, and the first piece of 40k art I ever saw was Tyranids versus Imperial Guard. So
You're doomed.
I'm kind of screwed.
You're doing
It is
your
what it
part.
is. It is what it is. I'll play both. Just probably for our launch party, I'll play Dark Angels. Then later, I'll play Guard, and then I'll play Dark Angels again. And the book comes out. Then I'll play Guard again.
Dear Lord, you're hopping all over the place.
Yeah.
Much like the topic for this episode. Seth, play the music. All right, John. This is going to be a little painful.
Yeah.
So
Hit me.
there are a lot of reveals, y'all. A lot of them, and they're across a cornucopia of systems. So I think we'll start with the stuff that is less hefty, and we will sort of work our way up to finishing with 40k, which by far had the most information and reveals. So John, where do you want to start?
Well, I think we can start off strong, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna leave the 40k stuff to the end, for if that's the reason you're here. But we're gonna start off with AOS, because I think AOS had a lot of really good stuff in there. It was just spread out, and yeah, we'll get into it. First thing, I really want to talk about the Flesh Eater Courts in Warcry. Like that Warcry box, like the Stormcast Eternals that are coming in that box, don't really care. They look like more Stormcast.
Mm-hmm.
But the Flesh Eater Courts, ugh.
Yeah, the like beast hunters. I'm a big fan. My wife loves the Flesh Eater Courts. Loves them.
You, like your wife and me, have a lot in common. We both love Flesh Eater Courts. Because I saw this and was just like, I'm in. Like,
say no more.
I might just start making a Flesh Eater Courts army later. Like, when they get a book. I might start trying to print stuff now for that in preparation. Like a zombie dragon. Stuff cool. The other thing, we both like you. So, third thing, sorry. We're stuck with you forever. But we'll be we'll doing it for more Flesh Eater Courts.
I will facilitate your Flesh Eater Court loves. God, you both love just like literally insane villains.
Yes.
You cannot help yourselves.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know. And the problem with it is like I love the Flesh Eater Court's flavor, but sometimes I feel like the models are a little bland. Like ghouls and stuff like that. Just a little bland. This, however, not the case.
The baboon dogs?
Yes, they have like vampiric undead bone dogs. So it's a new Warcry warband, which is AOS adjacent. But it's a combo box called Nightmare Quest, where you get one side of the box is a bunch of Stormcast Eternals, sort of out on a nightly quest to accomplish some big goal. They're cool Stormcast models, but they are your standard Stormcast. And they are going to go up against a group of Flesh Eater Courts that are specifically out there trying to hunt big monsters. And then wear big monsters. They're playing Monster Hunter Worlds.
Which is amazing.
And the Stormcast are trying to stop their fun. So they are covered in monster pelts. One of them has replaced their right hand with a halberd, which is friggin'. Mwah. Yeah, they have vampiric monster, gorilla dog things. Very cool. Some, elite ghouls, which is also cool. And then for AOS, they also showed off, we suspected would be a new narrative book, right? Sort of like Broken Realms for Age of Sigmar. They do this when they're towards the end of an edition, and things are winding down. They normally put out a book series, which tells a bunch of story, but also is a way for them to add sort of like one-off models to armies that are already existing. That for the last one they did was Broken Realms, which you could go back and watch on the channel. But John and I really liked. The story was good.
Yeah, I'm interested in where they're going with the Dawmbringers. The model releases look awesome. The Nurgle model looks perfect. But the little lore bit we got in there was that the Dawnbringer Crusades are not going the way they were intended by the Stormcast. The Dawnbringer Crusades are what was supposed to be some of the best parts of humanity going out, or best parts of dwarf society, elf society, going out to create new settlements and reclaim lands. It's kind of just turned into, we're emptying the prisons and taking the worst people because they're the only people willing to go. Yes. And taking them out, and what do you know? We're sending them out with no support, and they're basically dying.
Who could have guessed?
Yeah. You get aspects of that if you read the Dominion book by, I think, Darius Hicks, his name is? Same guy who's doing the Leviathan book. Mm-hmm. They cover that a little bit in that novel, where this is not a glorious cool thing that's happening. It's kind of a riff on talking about the Renaissance era imperialism, and it's really cool. And I'm hoping that they touch more on that, because there's a lot of things they can do with that narratively for the Order factions to make them appear less boring.
Mm-hmm. Less bog standard, so to speak.
Yeah.
More Dogs of War-esque.
Yeah. Which, if we got Dogs of War, that'd be cool, but who knows?
I'd be here for ragtag, sort of mercenary militia. Hell yeah.
There's an old series of Warhammer Fantasy novels called the Blackhearts, which is almost like Suicide Squad, but Warhammer Fantasy.
Ooh.
I would love for them to recreate that, but in AOS, because I think it would be awesome if they had just a bunch of people just soulbound, the RPG-esque, just trying their best.
And inevitably failing.
Yeah.
Perfect. So, that sets the narrative, and then we're getting new models to go with the first book, and yes, quite a number of them. So, first and foremost, we've got a new Harbinger of Decay model, which is a Nurgle model. If for people out there who play Nurgle, you've probably seen this model before. It's a really old, resin model. It has seen better days. So, it's getting a glow up, and holy crap, what a glow up.
That model single-handedly made me go, I might like the Nurgle faction.
It's a heck of a book.
I just want the model. I'm just going to get the model and maybe some pieces to throw together for the Slaves Darkness.
Mm-hmm. And then after just a minute ago, we were speaking about Flesh Eater Courts. A new hero for them, a Marrow Scroll Herald with a double-headed bone scythe? God, he's cool.
He's a Final Fantasy character, and I love him.
Yeah, he is supposed to be the royal scribe for His Majesty. bringing missives from the king, but in actuality, he's a guy with a scrap of flesh that he's like writing new things on. It like shaking it at people. Uh, so good. Big fan of the model. Then a new Fire Slayer hero, the Grimhold Exile. I mean, he looks like a Fire Slayer.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of more to distinguish him. He's got 2 hammers instead of 2 axes.
Yeah, I mean, he just falls into the same Fire Slayer's trap, which, like, if that's your thing, that's your thing. I just find that all those models just look the fucking same.
This one has a tactical rock.
Cool.
He's sort of doing like a rain of fire at the end, where Van Zant like jumps off the thing to hit the dragon with an axe.
Yeah.
That's what that model looks like. Don't you look at me? Don't you pause?
I'm convinced that the Fire Slayers was just one dude who's just like, man, everyone really likes Godrek. What if we just made an army of Godreks? Without understanding that part of what makes Godrek cool is that he's like one dude.
Yeah.
And an army full of Godreks is not as interesting.
Like, one prickly, angry dwarf man is charming, endearing. Big fan. A ton of them?
It's a frat party. Well, like, what's the most frustrating with the faction is that they have these really cool magmadrons, like these giant fire lizards, and they could do more with the fire lizards, but we keep getting shirtless dwarf dudes. Like,
we keep getting naked baby men.
Like, you could just give us a unit of like young magmadrons, or like a cavalry unit. Awesome. You could even have the naked dwarves riding them. That'd be awesome. But no.
Or like a big magma rock construct or something.
Yeah,
cool.
Like, there's more stuff you could add to this faction to like diversify it, and they just don't.
It's a shame. It's a real shame. I've tried to play Fire Slayers as an army I like, because the fluff is cool.
Yeah.
And when I close my eyes and picture stuff, I end up with the Conquest game in my head.
Yeah.
But trying to play them on the table was hard. Like, because everything's the same, and it's hard to know what unit ends where it stops. But at least if you're a Fire Slayers person, you get like a 16th hero.
Yeah, that's exactly what you needed, was another foot hero.
I was worried you didn't have enough.
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone in the Fire Slayers groups are very happy.
Much like Genes to their cult, you just don't have enough heroes.
I always need more heroes. And then, a model I really like. The Rabble Rouser for goblins.
Yes, which that as a faction also have a shitload of heroes, but do it right.
That is the right way to do a bunch of heroes.
Like, I was reading through that book because Seth, like, has goblins now, and the amount of, like, oh, well, that's very useful in this situation, that's very useful in this situation, that exists within those heroes is great. And the best part is they're pointed aggressively. So they're cheapest chips, you can bring them as tech pieces, and no one gives a shit. Like, great. That's what you want. Like,
and they look very different than each other. Like, they do a great job in the goblins line of, like, every hero, in theory, is just like a little goblin on foot, right?
Yeah, it's just a little dude trying to give you Monster Energy drinks, but, like...
But they go hard on making them all look very unique.
Yeah.
You know, the Loon King does not look anything like the Shaman Caster, which does not look anything like this Rabble Rouser, which doesn't look anything like any of the Gobblepalooza models. Like, they're all very unique and flavorful, and makes it easy to sort of bring multiple on the table and know who's who and where, because they each have their own little character.
Yeah, and, like, I mean, the Rabble Rouser looks like he just took a bunch of PCP and he's going to stab you in an alley for a Pop-Tart, which is the perfect flavor for a goblin, like, assassin character.
Yeah, but he's like the good talker. Like, he is the Southern revival preacher, getting everyone riled up to go to war.
Yes.
And, like, that big skull he wears on his head, I assume, is to, like, make his voice echo outwards, kind of like a megaphone.
That's amazing.
And that's what he uses to scream at other goblins, to get them up and moving. Huge fan. I think this is going to be cool. I liked Broken Realms quite a bit. And this, bringing new models, is already good out the gate. But if they give me a story that's equally as interesting as Broken Realms, well, double the win.
I want to believe we are going to get a story on the level of Broken Realms, but I don't think we're gonna. I think Broken Realms was uniquely interesting because it was all about the gods breaking the realms in different ways, and I don't think we're going to get that here. I think a lot of what we're going to get here is like smaller heroes doing smaller hero stuff in Gur leading up to the next realm, which, though would be less air quotes epic, would be more personable. And I'm hoping that's what it is. I don't want it to be like Broken Realms. I want it to be a personable, smaller stories that kind of add color to a painted world.
I'd be down for that. I just want the same quality of writing. Because, Broken Realms were fun to read, and I want that again. Yeah.
The new Free Guild Cavaliers got announced. Those are cool.
Ooh, yeah. I was just pulling up their kits. It is your standard plate-mailed dudes on horseback, right? But
yeah,
in a much more fun way than the old models.
Yes.
They look like just a little bit of zealot thrown in there, and also just a bit of ragtag thrown in there, and they're not uniform in what seems like a very intentional way. And I think it brings a little more flavor to that unit than they had before.
I like the horses. The horses look cool. The dudes on the horses, there's something about their armor that just throws me off. It feels very like 2010 Warcraft to me.
I love that. I'm here for it. But really the thing that got me making gorilla noises is the new Iron Jaws model.
Okay. Listen, before we get into this, we need to deliver it. The way they delivered it to us. God.
Oh, y'all. Okay. We are going to do our best to tell you about this model, but I need you to go watch the video. Especially if you're from the part of the country that we're from. Because they pitched this in a crappy 1994 commercial for a monster truck rally. And that's how they pitched the what's his name?
Iron Jaw Maw Grunter. He's just
God.
Big fat hog. He's just huge.
The biggest pig they could possibly design.
I felt the spirit of Tanner with me whenever I was seeing it. I was just like,
and then they put a big orc boss on the top, which is sick. And if that's where they stopped, okay, that would have been cool. But no. Then on each side of the big hog, the left and right, there's a metal platform, each one with another orc brute chained to the platform, swinging a two-handed chopper. So as the pig runs through with its giant tusks that are bladed, swinging its head and killing stuff, and the orc on top swings down to chop dudes. Now on the sides, you've got chopping happening left and right.
Yeah, God. I think for Iron Jaws, it's a great model. That army range loves monster trucks, and taking the if you take the cabbage out, all right, you take the dragon thing out,
the Maw Crusher,
put him in. And then oops all pigs with maybe a couple of units to hold some objectives. And you have a force that is super fun to play against. And considering that some of the rules got toned down, I think it'd be fun to play and play against again.
Yeah. The Iron Jaws army list is really refined, and I don't really think it needs much. But one of the things I have said for a long time that would be cool is a war boss on pig.
Mm-hmm.
An
it's
alternative,
a mid-costed hero.
Yes. I had an image in my head of what that would look like, but this is even cooler than what I had in my head. Just bravo.
Yes. Hopefully this is not 420 points. Hopefully this is the 250
250 to 300 range. Come on. Yeah, I'm a fan of. Overall, Age of Sigmar got a fair amount of cool stuff that's coming. A lot of sort of single models for armies, but in the year of a new 40k edition, that's great.
I think they're getting more than we expected. Like, I mean, they're getting an
I
entire narrative.
came in expecting very little.
Yeah, like they get an entire narrative thing for like 40k. Well, I'm sorry, like 40k's edition comes out this summer, and they got an entire narrative like book series that goes throughout the summer. That's quite a bit.
And a new army is dropping this summer. Like,
Which one's that? Is that the refresh
Crusade.
of?
Yeah, the Dawnbringer
Yeah.
Crusade.
Okay.
So, like, that's going to be a whole new line coming out this summer, which is cool. And now we're getting all these new single models. So overall, really happy from an AOS perspective. And then that was a bigger section because there was a shocking amount of AOS models revealed. Now we just got some quick stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Before we
like,
get into the big thing later.
Yeah. So Warhammer Old World, right? I guess we'll top there.
Yeah, we can do that.
So they gave us two models that they showed off. One is a Tomb King caster, and the other is a Bretonnian paladin.
Mm-hmm.
Cool models. Interesting though for me is that they're resin.
Yeah.
They're not plastic.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not expect that, if I'm being honest.
I'm wondering if they have changed the resin like formula, because I don't like. What if they're not using Finecast anymore? Using a different resin.
I hope they have. I have not had good experiences with Finecast.
Me neither. But they have seemed to phase out all their Finecast. But I also think this might not be a move because they wanted to make, that they kind of had to make. Their plastic manufacturing seems to like not be able to keep up. And I think adding even more plastic would be bad. And so they might be doing this to be able to keep the things releasing and just releasing them in resin to a group that is more likely to be okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
If they dropped a new 40k model in resin, everyone would shit their pants.
Yes.
But almost everyone who's interested in the old world are people who have played Warhammer Fantasy before and are used to resin and probably are more veteran in the game and want to play and don't care. That's resin.
Mm-hmm.
That just might just be a business decision, not a design decision. The old world for me, like that Bretonnian model, amazing.
I love it.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
I will
I
not
was
play the
kinda-
old world, but
See, I was open to the old world. Because I joined in Age of Sigmar, and I went, oh, those guys who are knights look cool. And then it was explained to me, like, oh, they're the Bretonnians, like, they don't exist anymore. You can't play them. But, you know, if they gave me a cool game to play for the old world, I was open to maybe playing Bretonnians. But we got some more info that makes me think it's not a game for me.
yeah. So in their Q&A, to give a little bit more context to that, they announced a couple of things based off of what people have talked about on the internet about Old World. And that is that there is not going to be a two-person starter set starting out, which is an
wild.
odd move.
Wild.
And their reasoning behind that is because they want this to mostly be a game for people who used to play old Warhammer Fantasy or are advanced wargamers who will like slowly build it and play it as a historical almost. Which it makes sense. They probably don't have the capability of releasing it as a full another like fifth game basically.
Mm-hmm.
But they plan on ramping up later and releasing more like new factions to like flesh out the old history of Warhammer Fantasy, which is awesome. That's very cool. I am not completely out of the like realm of playing it. Like if the rules are just banger and they're quick, fun games, awesome. I don't think they're gonna be. I think they're gonna be like old Warhammer Fantasy, and it's gonna be like an old kind of almost sluggish game. And I think that they have a lot of competition in the rank and flank game sphere, more than they do in AOS.
That's kind of one of the things that's interesting for me, is that when they said it was going to be like Old World, and they don't really intend it to get new people in, it's like, oh, well, okay. With that in mind, I think I'll just go play Conquest.
Yeah, like Conquest, though, is a very different kind of rank and flank game.
Mm-hmm.
Does have more modern gaming concepts. And then I also think that they just have bigger models. And like, you didn't get to play old Warhammer Fantasy, and I did.
I did not.
You hate horde armies.
I do. I really do not like hordes.
If it's like old Warhammer Fantasy, there's just gonna be a ton of models on the table. And like, I play Skaven. Don't get me wrong. I play Skaven. I was talking about playing Guard earlier. Like, I like painting hordes, but like, Warhammer Fantasy has a lot of miniatures. Like, you have like 40-man units regularly. You might have like 3 or 4 blocks of 40-man units. Like, Bretonnians are luckily ones that don't really do that. They're mostly just like cavalry and like some peasant groups, but like, y'all, it's a lot of models, and that's if they're still pricing stuff the way they're currently pricing stuff, that's going to be expensive. And then you compare that to something like Conquest, where it's like, hey, look at this like $40 box with like, you got to paint like 12 dudes because we sized them all up to make it look cooler. Like, it just, the math isn't the same anymore. I think where Warhammer Fantasy was back in like 2008 is not the same place that Wargaming is in right now.
I would hope not. I mean, it's been 15 years.
I hope I'm wrong. I hope it's great. I hope it's a wonderful game and that everyone gets exactly out of it what they want. But currently, it is not looking great. Love that Bretonnian model, though. Kind of just want him to make a diorama.
It is a sick mini. Like, really. Huge fan of it. Him putting his sword in, like, an orc head. Mwah.
I love the idea that these Bretonnians are just, like, they are defending themselves against orc wall after orc wall after orc wall.
I mean, they were in the original fluff. Something, something, something. The 10 battles. Yeah.
Yeah.
They also they released a couple of new things for Horus Heresy.
Yes.
First, the Cerastus Knight Lancer, which is for people out there who don't know, it was a Forge World mini. It's a big stompy robot that was made in resin.
Which big models in resin are really bad.
Oh, it's painful. It's real painful. But now they're going to take that model and release it in plastic. Same model, but now a plastic sculpt. And that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I hope it has 40k rules so you get more options in Imperial Knights. And then they also showed off 2 new heroes. I'm assuming they're from like the Siege of Terra novels or what?
They're not from Siege of Terra. Those are from the new novel, the Chthonian Rising.
Okay. Yeah, one is Viren Ashuradon. He's a son of Horus. And then Lord Castellan Evander Garius. And what a lad! God, that's a chunky boy.
Mm-hmm.
Fan of that mini. I don't think I could play Horus Heresy, but I'm a fan of that mini.
Yeah, I mean, I put in our notes here was wax poetic about how we want to play, but ain't got no time. Because
Yeah.
The Horus Heresy as a thing has appealed to me since it came out in Forge World a long time ago. It's awesome. The tales you can tell, the fun you can play with it. Like, all of the legions have very specific rules. Like, they're very fun. But much like Old World, it requires more models than regular 40k.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them are very samey. And as much as I want to dedicate the time, like AOS, 40k, and then playing stuff beyond the Games Workshop sphere, playing Horus Heresy is a lot. It's a lot of dedication that maybe in the future.
I feel like we already struggle to do AOS and 40k.
Yeah.
Just because, like, oftentimes Games Workshop games take a while to play
Mm-hmm.
by their design. And that seems to be one of the things they like about their games. And that's cool. But it does make it hard to play multiples of them.
Well, I think the thing that makes it even more difficult is the rat race, right? Like, even Horus Heresy has a rat race, which when that was coming out, we talked about how we were hoping it wouldn't have, but they have it. Like, they have their own stream of releases that you have to keep up with in order to play with. And, like, yeah, you can just choose not to, but if you try to play with anyone else besides, like, 1 or 2 other people, like, cannot keep up with it.
Yeah, you're going to struggle.
Yeah. So, like, sometimes other games are more appealing. Like, Song of Ice and Fire, though, as much as I don't like, they only release updates once a year. You only got to care about updates once a year. Star Wars Legion, much the same.
Yeah.
Conquest, also similar.
Yeah, it makes it easier to keep up with, for sure. Yeah. Maybe one day Horus Heresy, but not today Horus Heresy.
Maybe if we ever turn this thing full time and we don't have to work normal jobs, we can just do everything. But like, until then, no.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is like most people, we have to go to work. Can't play too many games.
Yeah. Our unfortunately our jobs are not to play games, or else that'd be awesome. Like we'd be down.
How great! Instead of designing engineer stuff, play Warhammer game instead.
Actually, I'm playing the truest Warhammer game. It's called Logistics.
Very Rabute Gilliman of you.
It's a whole it's a whole thing.
I'm sorry. We are recording, but I believe I just smelled biscuits started downstairs.
Oh no.
This show just got a lot more exciting.
You might have to take a biscuit break.
Don't mind me if there's a cut and then I'm munching on biscuits. Okay, I think that's most of the little stuff. We've teased ourselves for long enough, John.
Well, yes and no, because we didn't talk about Kill Team, but I can make it short.
I thought we were going to do Kill Team with 40K.
I think that we need to separate it because the 40K stuff is very unique.
John, I just want to point out that if we wrapped Warcry into Age of Sigmar, John.
Yeah, but Warcry didn't release an entire box set
for 40K.
I understand. 40K released an entire box set.
What is Kill Team if not Warcry for 40K?
Fine, we're starting the 40K, but with Kill Team. How about that?
Thank you, John.
You?
It was my plan. It was my plan.
I ruined your plans. That's my entire purpose.
You did. God.
Yeah.
Professional podcasters, John.
We're not professional shit.
We've never made a dime.
So Kill Team, wrapping it up pretty quick. The Inquisition side, it's an Inquisition versus Cultist box. It's very cool. The Inquisition models are basically fighting against cultists that, depending on what the cultists do, can either become like blessed leaders of the cult, or they become like cool new chaos spawn called accursed cultists. These are all CSM models. It's a narrative Kill Team box, but like you play on this box for a while to like tell a story in between the two forces, which is very fun. That's very cool. I really like that. That's awesome. What I don't like is that they also announced that there's a season 3 of Kill Team where they're releasing more of these boxes, and that's exhausting. Like, granted, I love the fact they're going to jungles. Like, they're going to have jungle fights. That's awesome. But I'm not going to lie, it is very, like, I would like to play Kill Team. I can't, because I don't want to engage with the, like, buy this $200 box set every 3 months if you want to play these new factions, because we don't release them individually. Like,
yeah, I am not a fan of that business model at all.
And
it just doesn't work for me.
And trying to get other people to play with you is impossible. Like, I have the Octarius box in my closet. I have not used it because, like, it is a hard selling point to get anyone in our group to play, because everyone likes different factions, and you're basically asking someone to buy a whole $200 box set to play with 6 dudes and learn a whole other game when we could just play 40K with the stuff we have.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you can use the terrain that you get from those boxes in 40K games, but yeah. Like, if Kill Team is your only game, I'm happy for you that you get a constant stream of releases. But there is no easy way to really play it with just, like, as a side game, for lack of a better way of putting it.
Yeah, well, John, I think it was a couple weeks ago, was like, oh, maybe we could try Kill Team. I'm like, all right, John, what books do I need to buy to play Kill Team?
Correct. Like, can't answer that question easily.
Like, there's so many. There's so many. And not only are there a bunch of books, but they're split out over multiple boxes. Some of them are available online. I think some stuff might be in White Dwarfs. Like, it's...
Like if
I don't
they,
know. It's
I
hard.
think Kill Team is something that they could very, 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 very easily fix. It does not require a ton. They can keep releasing these boxes that I think are asinine. But if they release these boxes and then release the teams individually, right? And like made all these different Kill Team boxes as entry points for anybody
Mm-hmm.
with the terrain you need to play, and then you can buy the team separately if you've already bought a box to play on, and then just take all of the Kill Team rules and put them online for free. All of them.
Yeah.
Like every single bit of it. Make the entire rule set updatable throughout. Make it almost pseudo-competitive in that way, where like it updates regularly and that you can play. We would probably hop on immediately. Like if we could click on a link, go to a Kill Team like rule set, have that rule set in a PDF, and then have a army builder that made sense
Mm-hmm.
immediately with access to all the rules, we would just do it. I might even just go and buy one of those boxes, like for the terrain and for like the dudes.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't like.
It's just they're making it hard for people to play their game, which is normally not a good idea for a company.
Especially for a game that is kind of like the perfect entry point to the setting. Like I think the
Yes.
vast majority of people who would be interested in the setting, who read the novels, are probably going to watch the new TV show, are probably going to like play the new Space Marine game. The Kill Team system would be better than the 40K system because it's less models, it's a quicker entry. You can probably get in games more easily.
And ideally, it's cheaper.
Ideally. But when 40K rules are easier to pick up, then Kill Team is kind of a problem.
They're trying to suss out where to even find the Kill Team rules.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's an issue. And I think they need to fix it if they want to actually appeal to a mass market, like they seem to want to with all of their like outside of miniature releases.
Mm-hmm. There we go. That's the first thing for 40K down, John.
Yeah, now time for 40 minutes of 40K talk.
Good Lord. We are already like an hour into this. We are 50. Oh, Lord. Okay. Leviathan.
Warhammer Fest!
Warhammer Fest! Our poor editor. So, they did show off what we thought they would. We already knew 10th edition was coming, but we figured they would show off the starter box for 10th edition and shows everything in it. And sure enough, ba-boom, it's here. Dubbed Leviathan. And boy howdy, is it chock-a-blocka full of models. And
yes.
As everyone knew, I mean, it's a whole bunch of Space Marines and Tyranids. But cool models.
Yes. I am very excited. Like, I get excited for every new box set for every new edition, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm about it. Like, I love them. They're always great. But Tyranids, as an antagonist, hold a special place in my heart for reasons I talked about earlier in the show. And I like the new Space Marines, and they're really cool, but that Lieutenant is the best one, followed by the Dreadnought, and, like, the Stern Guard.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess we'll do a quick rundown to the Space Marine side, because it's easier, and they're all, like, most of them are existing things.
Yes.
Like, so we got a Captain and Terminator armor. Love it. That's a totally new kit.
It's very classic. Like,
yep,
but in
it's
a new modern way.
But, yeah, brand new model. Librarian and Termi armor. Love all the Termies.
Yeah, chunky
also
boy.
Looks great. Big lad. Apothecary Biologist, which is in Gravis armor.
But
so, chunky doctor.
But they've also clarified it's not like a normal apothecary. His thing is that he's a scientist. So he's not a medical person. He is a like biological scientist who is going to try to study the Tyranids to find better ways of fighting them.
Huge fan. I love his little apron.
Yes.
He's got a little apron with like a pair of pliers in there and little scissors. Big fan. Of course, Lieutenant and Phobos armor straight out of the trailer. We knew that was coming.
And he looks amazing.
He does.
He has all those
goop falling off of the knife.
The goop falling off the knife, and also the Tyranid like chitin attached to
on his right pauldron.
Yes, it's so good.
Sternguard Veteran Squad.
Yeah. I'm very excited about the little details in that unit where they've got like little piecemeal from parts of different armor. And like,
Yeah, I see like the one guy with like a Mark 6 head or Mark 7 head. That's cool. I like that heavy bolter.
yeah,
That modern heavy bolter.
I love that unit. Like, even if the unit's trash, I'm going to use it because I just love the way that it. I love the story of just like a bunch of Space Marines who have like collected different pieces that work for them and making their own like little kit.
And then, of course, a Terminator Squad.
Yes.
You gotta put a Terminator Squad in it. They're in the trailer, and they get a homing beacon with them, which rescaled. Looks cool. Next is it's based off of an Intercessor model, which is something that exists. But this is called an Infernus Squad, where it's Intercessors, but they all have flamethrowers, which is cool. So
makes sense for fighting Tyranids.
Yeah, so there's going to be 10 guys in there with flamethrowers. And then bringing up the big boy end, the Ballistus Dreadnought, which is a Redemptor Dreadnought that is kitted out for entirely ranged pain.
Yes.
He's got a missile launcher, he's got 4 heavy bolters, and 2 last cannons. Holy crap.
Yes.
What a mini.
Yeah, he is a riff on an old Dreadnought style from like 5th and 6th edition. That was a las cannon missile launcher like mix where you would be able to shoot tanks, but also be able to do it like target smaller like Space Marine squads or Guardsman squads with the different missile types. Very interesting. I like him. He's very cool. I hope that the actual kit when they release it lets you put 4 las cannons on it though, because that'd be fucking killer.
That would be sick. Just to replace the left arm with more las cannon.
Yeah. Because I'll take 2. One that's mixed and then one that's just like, hey, what's up? All las cannons.
I hate tanks. Boo, 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 boo.
It's like playing the Rifleman with 4 ERPPCs on MechWarrior. It's just...
Yeah. Oh. Hotter than the hinges on the gates of hell. And then, the Tyranid half. Like, don't get me wrong, the Space Marine half is cool. They're fine models. But they don't have the flavor for me. But the Tyranid half, I'm not going to play Tyranids, but God, I just appreciate the box. Just do.
I will fight Tyranids. I will be fighting Tyranids
yes.
a lot, and I'm very excited to be fighting Tyranids.
There's a specific model in here that I've looked at, and I just keep thinking, I cannot wait to fist fight that when 10th edition drops.
Yes.
It's delightful. So for the Tyranid half of the box, you get a Winged Tyranid Prime, which is a new unit and a new model.
And it's very cool looking.
It is. It's very. We saw it in the trailer as well. Very cool. And then the Neuro Tyrant. Brain Bug. The biggest brain bug.
He's doing that weird like Fortnite dance.
I can't. I just hear Zoidberg noises in my head at the tentacles.
Also
that. Then a Screamer Killer. God, that looks so much better than the old one. Which I am really glad that they didn't just make like a sub form of Carnifex. Like it's its own bespoke thing. Very cool.
Yeah. And also, it's a monster truck. Like, they showed the rules off at Warhammer Fest for it. And it's got 10 attacks. I think you go toe-to-toe with Angron. Like...
Yeah, it crushes things. It's just gonna crush stuff.
It's a monster.
And it screams plasma at you. Like, it's
amazing. I'm so excited to shoot it.
And then a new unit, Von Ryan's Leapers, which are... sort of a riff on an older stealthy unit, but now you get 3 of them in a unit. They're probably going to be like a harasser on the flank.
Also, what a name.
I know. And then you get a big old bundle of Termagants, because you gotta. Like, you just gotta. And they come with their own little rippers, which is cool. Neurogants, which is a brand new unit, which just seems like the chaffiest chaff unit.
Yeah, like chaff bodyguards.
Big fan. Just more like ablative wounds for your heroes, which you're going to need. Barbagants, brand new.
Like mid-range shooting unit that's not like Biovores or Pyrovores.
Yeah, it's sort of like, yeah, exactly. That's what I think of. It's sort of like Biovore or Pyrovore, but like a more modern sculpt. I'm here for it. Psychophage. This is the thing I really want to like. I want to fist fight badly.
Is it the one with the arm hanging out and like the smokestack back?
Yeah, smokestack bug. Yeah, it just wants to consume everyone in melee, and it wants to eat psychers specifically to get their biomass. I cannot wait to fist fight it.
Him, much like me, do love the witch.
It do love the witch. God, what a cool mini. I love the sort of like the cephalothorax at the front and the big abdomen in the back that's sort of up high like a spider but with a crab leg situation. It just well done, sculptors.
Yeah,
well
like
done.
a lot of people have been like, "Oh, it looks just like the Venom Crawler." Yeah, man, because they're both themed off spiders. Like,
It's almost like it's a thing, dude.
it's awesome though.
We're riffing on ideas here, okay?
It's fine. Like, I can't wait to kill that thing.
There could be more than one very threatening, vaguely spider-esque creature. Okay,
Like-
there's room in the galaxy for multiples.
Like,
unfortunately,
my dog. Have you played Dungeons and Dragons? Like,
so many spider-like dangers, and we love them all. Actually, no, we don't. They kill us every time.
yeah.
Yeah, so I really like the Tyranid half of this box. I think the Tyranid half is baller. And I am really, really glad that they're getting a lot of love. Tyranids haven't had a whole lot in a very long time, and their time has come.
Well, like, I also think that like they've had some pretty strong rules for like 3 editions. But I think a lot of that's been because like they have so few units to work with, and they like basically condense all of the combos and everything into a few units that you can easily spam. And there's not a lot of choice to be made internally with the codex. And I'm hoping that adding more units like this really kind of expands the options of play, so that it doesn't really play like 2 ways.
Yeah.
And I'm excited about that. Like, I think it'd be a lot of fun. I really like Tyranids, and like, win or lose, I always have fun playing against Tyranids, especially if I'm playing like something like Guard, where it feels like insurmountable odds, even if it's the same points value.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just very fun. And we've seen some of the rules for it, and it's some of the best rules narratively they've ever released for Tyranids.
Yeah, and that's only a slice of what we've seen.
Yeah.
Like there's much more book out there that we just aren't privy to yet. So overall, I think Tyranids are going to have a really good time, and I think a lot of Tyranid players are going to want this box. But fortunately for them, I don't think it's going to be hard to find people to split the box with to, sell off the Space Marine half. If you're a NID player.
I think this box will sell better than Indominus.
You think?
I think the Space Marine half isn't as good as the Indominus Space Marine half was, but I think there's a whole lot more people interested in Tyranids out there than there were in Necrons.
That's probably true.
And I think that this also has a benefit of not releasing during quarantine. I think that, like, though people bought that box a lot in quarantine, a lot of people didn't play it. And what else comes in this box is the Tyrannic War, like, narrative supplement. And though we don't have a ton of information to go off of for it, the way they've pitched it is that you play this box against each other with, like, a story inside the box, and then you crack open that book, and at the end of it is a Tyrannic War narrative campaign that you can then go buy models for and continue, which, like, for especially new people, is a great entry. Like, it gets them going with, like, narrative play and casual play, which is great. And, like, I can't wait to see what that is. Like, that's probably the thing I'm the most excited for in the box, because I would love to run, like, a narrative, get all of our friends who play, like, Tyranids to fight us playing, like, forces
An
of
evolving
something else.
campaign.
Yeah, like, that would be...
As we try to hold out in the western fringes.
Oh my god, it would be so good. I would personally have a blast on an entire weekend with that.
So would I. And I feel like that's all of that's good by itself, right? Like, obviously, very cool. But what I was really excited for the game in general is that not only did they show off the box and the Crusade stuff, but they also showed off a timeline for codexes.
Yes.
For 10th edition as a whole. And I think that's an interesting thing to do. I mean, it's a thing we've wanted for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really glad that they're just being upfront with us about, what's coming.
Yeah, and I know there's a lot of spicy takes about it, but I'm kind of glad that we're gonna have 3 months before the first codexes come out, and almost a full year before we get replacing most of those indexes. Hot take. I'm glad that the indexes are free, and I'm glad that those are going to be useful for most people for a minimum of a year. It's going to create a good golden window, and we'll see how the codexes are when they come out. But historically, codexes are not they are power creep.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like they're trying to push a ton out. Now they have 27 factions to go through, but they're releasing 6, 7 books in the spring of 2024.
Yeah,
and then they're releasing 2 books in 2023. Probably late fall. October, November.
I don't know. I have concern because the last time they did an index reset for 8th, they had many more books done than this when they hit winter.
I'm just hoping that it looks like the indexes are more thought out in this iteration to be actual playable rules, which hopefully lessens that blow.
I hope.
I
have worries, but I want to see how they lay out the codexes before I really say anything firm.
Yeah, it really depends on how those codexes release rules. If it's, hey, these data sheets that you've already been playing with, here's them reprinted in a book with the new ones for the new models that we release. Because that's the other thing I said. Every codex will have new models with it. At least one new model. And then
that means Gene Stealer Colts getting a new hero.
Fuck you. God damn it, dude. We need a tank. We need a fucking tank.
Nope. You gotta get another hero.
But I would really enjoy if the index war scrolls are just supplementary, right? That okay, here's the Gladius Strike Force for Space Marines. Here's all the Space Marine Strike Force stuff. New Space Marine book comes out. Here is a detachment for each of the sub-factions to pick from, right? So you can pick your chapter-specific one if you want to, with a Salamander's one that's about using flamers, White Scar's one that's about using bikes, right? Make all those be fun. Release all of the characters, fun. But it doesn't invalidate the index rules. And you can still use the index rules with that. And the book is almost supplementary because it adds extra detachments. That's the perfect world for me. And I think that if instead we get the 9th edition version of here's a completely new refresh with the codex that completely changes your army and how it plays.
And it's probably significantly more powerful.
We will not have a good time.
I think when it drops, we will have a golden bit of time for the first few months where everyone's on the same page. And I think the big question is when the codexes drop, is the golden age going to be shattered?
Yeah.
Or are they going to be more subtle about it? And I hope that they are.
And from what we've seen about the current rules and what they've said the framework is, they are set up to not ruin it. The fact that they have told us ahead of time, each faction has a limited amount of stratagems. That will be the stratagems because all of the rules have to fit on 2 pages. You have a limited amount of enhancements to choose from. You can only have 3. The fact that you can only bring certain units and certain detachments means that those detachments are much easier to balance. Mm-hmm. And the command points pretty much all, but it's going the AOS style, which is much cooler. It seems like a game that would be easier to balance. It seems like a game that would be easier to release codexes for and not break it. It seems like they learned a lot of their lessons from AOS. That seems to have mostly dealt with the power creep and brought it into 40K. It's just waiting to see how that actually plays out.
Yeah, how do they implement?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm gonna remain cautiously hopeful, and if it goes great, we will sing its praises from the rooftop here, and if it goes terribly, we'll grumble about it.
And then we'll still play games.
It's just what I don't want, really, really don't want, is for okay, Space Marine Codex, the edition drops, we're all playing against each other, we're all having a really good time, everyone's having fun with all of their armies, and then, all right, it's time for the Space Marine Codex and the Tyranid Codex to come out. They've dropped, and now oh god, they're so powerful that our Space Marine and Tyranid players are no longer comfortable playing their army with their buds.
Yeah.
That's the worst, sort of feels bad.
Yeah.
And I hope we don't have to juggle it this edition.
Yeah. I think that in AOS, we've been able to mostly keep away from it. And I'm hoping the 40K is the same. It also helps that 40K just out the gate was honest and was like, y'all, don't play this game at less than 1,500 points.
We didn't make it for that.
No, you can do 1,000. We don't suggest it. We suggest 1,500 and above.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that's the thing that's weird is, when they, in the core book, say you could play 500, well, people are going to think that the game at 500 is representative because you don't know any better.
And every time we've tried to do 500 or 750, it always ends up with one faction runs off the rails and slaps everyone. Because it's easy to do. It's easy to do.
Mm-hmm.
You can just bring 3 units of T-Sons Terminators, slap everyone in the face with armor contempt. You can just do that.
1-up save, ignoring one of the reds.
Yeah. And there's that, because that faction was balanced for 2,000 points. It wasn't balanced for 750. And all the updates they make to the game are for 2,000 points, not for 750.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We're going to come out the gate playing 2K games and just see how it goes. Because if we're going to learn an edition, we want to feel it representatively. So even if that means playing non-painted models, we're just going to play 2K.
Yeah, and I think the Combat Patrol stuff is interesting. The fact that Combat Patrol is a brand new, hey, it is a set model list for an army to play against other armies as an entry point into 40K, I think is very cool. But I think that it has almost no use for veteran players. I think the use that it has for veteran players is to get new people into the game.
Yes.
Which is a nice separation, and I think useful in some regard. But we can't really build a weekend around it other than maybe a new player teaching weekend, which would be cool.
Mm-hmm.
Where we can get a bunch of people who are interested in the game, but not ready to dive in head first.
Yeah. And I don't know, it's a hard game to get into in general, but hopefully Combat Patrols makes it easier. And for our end, we're working on making it easier ourselves. Man, y'all, John and I, as well as Seth and Tanner, who do the editing, are doing our best to prep for all sorts of new stuff that's coming with 10th edition.
Yes.
Much to the detriment of our sleep schedules.
Yes.
And social lives.
Well, this is our social life.
Oh, God! We're going to do our level best to get out faction focuses for every single army in the game right as fast as we can when 10th drops. Not in podcast form, but in short form videos on YouTube.
Yes.
And we could also, maybe just upload the audio for people who only listen on Spotify. But we didn't want everyone to have to wait if you are considering a new faction and need some guidance on where to start. So we didn't want you to have to wait for the normal release cadence. So we are going to just get them out.
Yeah.
Shooting for 10 minutes of faction.
Yeah.
Quick
And we
hits.
We are uncertain of what that timeline will look like, but it will be faster than the normal cadence.
We're going to do our damnedest.
Yeah.
We have an internal timeline in our head of what we want, but we'll see. There's 27 factions.
Yeah. Like, you don't realize how many Warhammer 40k factions there are until you sit down and go, man, we should do a Oh, no.
Oh, man. Each video, 10 to 15 minutes long. And then 27 factions. And then you gotta do research and prep for each of those. And, oh, Lord. It very quickly balloons.
Yeah. So we'll be doing our best to like get some stuff out to y'all for, maybe if you're just new and you want to play a faction, or if you're starting a new faction in 10th edition, or you want to send it to your friends, that's great. If you have ideas of other stuff that you'd like us to see us do in like our core episodes, our bi-weekly episodes, please send it to us. You can see us on Twitter, Instagram, whole 9 yards. Comment section on YouTube.
We check them.
Yeah.
By God, we check them. But we're going to have a lot to do in the coming month.
Yeah. And any support is helpful. We don't have a Patreon. We're not asking for money. All we're asking for is maybe a like, maybe a subscribe, maybe a share something that you thought was fun to your friend.
Or reviews are really helpful.
Yes.
Especially.
Yeah.
For podcasts. It really helps the algorithm to push the show around.
Yeah.
Which we really appreciate. But for now, that's been all of our opinions. Bona fide. Kentucky Fried. We'll see y'all in the next episode.